episode 33 of the Hilo and Stitch podcast. I'm your host, Kristen, and I'm here to talk to you about what else? Knitting. I will also be talking about knitting pattern design, other goings on in the fiber arts community, basically anything related to knitting or even knitting adjacent. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode. A special thank you to my Patreon patrons who help keep this podcast up and running, and a special welcome to anyone who is checking out the podcast for the first time. So if you don't know me already, my name is Kristen. I am the designer behind Media Peruana Design, so I'm trying to retire. I'm also a knitting instructor and a knitting pattern translator, if that's of interest to anybody. I live in the Maryland suburbs of Washington, D.C. with my two mischievous little boys and my husband, who is a very tall man from Peru. When I'm not knitting, occasionally, I also enjoy vegetable gardening, reading, yoga, drinking wine, but it's mostly about the knitting, so let's go ahead and start talking about it. All right, here we are. We made it almost through the month of January. That was a long month, wasn't it? It seemed to go on forever. We survived the autogolpe attempt in Washington. We made it through the inauguration, which went off without a hitch, thankfully. Donald Trump has flown away to Florida. And while that certainly doesn't solve all of the country's problems overnight, I certainly am breathing at least a little bit easier. Apologies if you are from another country, perhaps one with a more stable democracy. Maybe that's not relevant to you, but I think we can all appreciate and value a stable democracy, whether ours currently is one or not. So January is my least favorite month of the year, so I am quite happy that it is almost over. I know a lot of people dislike February more, but I do not. For one, my son's birthday. For two, it's a lot shorter, only 28 days. And for three, even if you don't particularly enjoy Valentine's Day, I think we all enjoy half-priced candy day, or half-priced chocolate day. So January has always been my least favorite. I love Christmas, of course, and so I've got the after Christmas letdown, the cold, dark days of January, and the very little to look forward to. But hooray, it's almost over. We usually, by usually I mean for the last, I don't know, half a decade, we usually end up in February with a run of oddly warm days at some point in the month. It's usually 2 or 3 days where the temperature will get up into the 60s for unknown reasons. I know that's not good in terms of the climate as a whole, but it does make February a little bit more bearable for us. My son does have a birthday coming up. We won't really get to do anything fun, but he's in those terms, he's pretty laid back. So as long as there's cake, I think he'll be okay. Cake and presents, I think he'll be okay, regardless of what the situation is. So other than that, we are staying home. The kids are still in virtual school, Zoom school. Well, no, my oldest is still in Zoom school. My youngest is being homeschooled by me. They're downstairs yelling right now, but I think that's happy yelling. It does get harder to tell as they get older and louder. You know, when they were little, it was pretty obvious when it was mad yelling, because otherwise they didn't yell so much. But now I just feel like they're yelling pretty much all the time. But I think that's happy yelling. We got, I got this, no, I did that wrong. This game for my son for Christmas called Monopoly Deal. It is like a card version of Monopoly, which he really likes. And of course, you know, the rest of us really don't, just because it's so long. It's such a long game to play. But this card game version of it, like I said, it's called Monopoly Deal, and I'm pretty sure I just got it on Amazon. It's so much better. It moves faster. There's still some strategy involved. You know, a game can be over in about 10 or 15 minutes. And so I think that's what they're playing downstairs. And I have to say, if you have kids that enjoy Monopoly, definitely try to check out that Monopoly Deal and see if maybe that will work for your family, because it has sort of all the good elements of Monopoly, but it's just much faster. It moves much more quickly. So, you know, I am with my kids all during the week, and then on the weekends I try to do work. But the kids are, you know, always, "Mommy, can't you play with us?" And of course I feel guilty, even though my husband, you know, is working 5 days a week and not playing with them, but whatever. Societal guilt. And so then I would, you know, end up sitting down and playing some long drawn out game of Monopoly. And now, you know, I say, "Oh, sure, I'll play a game of Monopoly Deal." And then 10, 15 minutes later, I'm done. I might even play two. So definitely check that out if you have kids who insist on playing Monopoly. So wherever you are in this cold January, winter, I hope that you are doing well and staying safe from COVID, and that your children that you may have aren't driving you crazy. But let's go ahead and start talking about some knitting. So even though I said I am very much trying to retire from pattern design, I do have a pattern drop in this episode. So this is not an indie pattern. This is a pattern being published by a third party, and that third party in this case is Knitscene. And I have a new pattern as part of their Winter Tide collection. So I will go ahead and pop a photo in here. This is the Fresh Powder Pullover. This is designed to be a super cozy, warm, depths of winter sweater. So this is knit up in super bulky yarn, which personally, I do not like to work with yarn that heavy because I have to use larger needles. And I don't enjoy using needles larger than about a 9. But for those who really do enjoy working with super bulky and bulky yarns, because, you know, those really make a quick project, maybe you will want to check this out. This is knit, as I said, in a super bulky yarn. It's Brown Sheep Burley, which is a single ply, 100% wool, and it is super warm. This is a chunky kind of sweatshirt of a sweater. It is worked from the top down. It has a circular yoke. And then basically it's stockinette, but it's broken up by these large blocks of color and these garter ridges. And I was careful in my sample to make my color transitions at a garter ridge spot. So you'll see, I'll try to throw a close-up in here. You can see the way that the two colors blend together in the garter ridge. So you get a pop of the one color in the section of the other color, which I think just adds a little bit of visual interest. This is worked on a size 13 needle mostly, a size 11 for all of the trim. So even with that, it's still a pretty thick fabric. But you can also see, if I do a close-up maybe of the yoke here, you can definitely see where the increases are for the circular yoke, and it adds a little bit of texture and visual interest across the yoke as well. The pattern includes 8 sizes, and this is something you want to be really extra big. So the smallest size for the pattern is, I think, a 37-inch bust circumference. So you really want this to have 8-10 inches of ease. So it's extra roomy and you're really just gonna snuggle up in it like a sweatshirt. If you lived through the 90s and you remember, maybe the late 80s, early 90s, you remember we just wore like really giant sweaters and then leggings. So it's almost a sweater dress, but it doesn't have the shaping of a dress. It's just a really big sweater. You could kind of do this with this pullover design. So again, this is part of the Knit Scene Wintertide collection. So this is not coming directly from me, but you can head over to Interweave's website and purchase either the individual pattern or the entire Wintertide collection directly from them. And then when the rights to the pattern revert back to me next January, it will be republished as an indie design. So I've decided to call this a new segment called Challenge Accepted, where I'm going to talk about any sort of challenges or goals or things like that that I've set for myself. So I want to kick things off talking about my Make 9, but I don't think we can do that without talking about my Make 9 for 2020, which was an abject failure. So let me just pop a photo in here of my Make 9 for 2020. I finished one project from my Make 9. I did start several others, but I only finished one. And the one that I finished is the Breeze Racerback by Jessie Mae Martinson. Again, I'll stick a little photo in here. And I finished that way back in like February or March of 2020, and then didn't finish anything else. As I said, I did start a couple of other projects. So I started my desk chain or however you pronounce it. And that is currently in one of my whip baskets. I started the Lionheart shawl and quickly realized I wasn't going to be happy with it because it involves color work worked flat. When I had seen the pattern originally, I assumed that it was a kind of slip stitch pattern. It is not. It is stranded color work flat, and I have very, very little patience for that. So I had started that. I ripped it out. I decided to replace it in my Make 9 with Jessie Mae's Ripple Butt Shorts, which I also started and then ripped out because I had picked a size that was too small. I mean, let's be honest, during the pandemic, I think we've all gained a little bit of weight. So when I was picking out my size, I was dithering between two sizes. And the instructions indicate that if you're not sure, you should probably go down a size, which is what I did. I picked the smaller of the two sizes. And had I picked the larger, I probably could have made a success of those, but I didn't because I definitely, during the pandemic and particularly during the fall and winter with so many good, delicious foods available, I've definitely gained a little bit of weight. So those also came off the needles and have since been frogged so that I can restart a new size. And then, did I start anything else from my Make 9? I bought the yarn for the Daydreamer. I have the yarn for the Andawa. I bought the yarn for the Sheer V, but I didn't start anything else. So 9 patterns, I finished exactly 1. I hope I'm gonna have better luck this year. So without further ado, I present my Make 9 for 2021. So as you can see, I kept a few of the projects that were originally on my Make 9 2020, and I've added more. I've really tried to limit the number of sweaters I included. I really do enjoy making sweaters more than anything else, but I also need to be a little bit more realistic, particularly because I have a number of sweaters that I am trying to finish for my Finish Fix Frog project for 2021. So I didn't do as many sweaters. So I still have the Andawa, I still have the Daydreamer, and I've added the Ursina. And then the Ridgeview tee is not really a sweater, it's a short sleeve top. So maybe that will help. And then I've put some accessories in, so maybe try to break things up a little bit and give myself more of a chance of success. So I have the Icy Trails mitts, and this is by the same designer as the Lionheart shawl that I attempted last year, Gabrielle Vizina. That's French, and I'm not 100% sure. Then I did the Mosaic cowl by Let's Knit. It's Justina, I'm not sure. It's gonna come to me. Lurkowski? I will definitely put it right here. And of course, everything that I'm talking about is also gonna be linked in the show notes. So even though I'm gonna bumble through names and things, it will all be there. So that is a really nice cowl pattern and a chance to do a little mosaic knitting, which I've done very little of. I also have my Chrysalis shawl by Lavagna Patricella, which is the beautiful kind of brioche, mixing your fingering weight and your, in this case, lace weight Surrey alpaca. You could, I'm sure, use a silk mohair lace weight as well. So that's a big fluffy fuzzy shawl. The Dog Walker Companion's Coat, which is of course a puppy coat. I will not even be attempting that until our dog stops growing. She is now about 6 months old and 30 pounds. Did I mention, I don't think we had this yet in the last episode. So all of the people that adopted puppies from her litter, from the rescue, have an email list so we can all keep in touch, and somebody actually paid for the DNA test, which is something I would never do, but I'm happy to have the results of. So she is about 50% blue heeler or Australian cattle dog, and then the rest is kind of a mix of husky, pit bull, bulldog, and chow chow, I think. And none of them are particularly big. The biggest ones are the half blue heeler, and then I think it's like 20% husky, 15% pit bull or something like that, and then the other ones are much smaller. So I think she's gonna get bigger. So we just had her spayed this weekend, so that's we got a new weight for her, 30 pounds. Anyway, so I'm definitely not going to be knitting that until she is done, or at least close to done growing. I think it looks like it could be adjustable a little bit, but I definitely want her to mostly be her full size before I tackle that. I also have the Vintage Prim hat, which is also by Andrea Mallory. And that's another, kind of fun chance to play with brioche. I really don't need any more hats. I mean, when it's cold, I rarely go out, especially during the pandemic. But cute hats are always fun to have around. So, and then in addition to those accessories, as I said, I added the Ursina by Jacqueline Cieslak, and the Ridgeview tee by Carrie Bloomer, and that's not a full sweater again, it's just a t-shirt, so that's totally reasonable. So that is all of the patterns for my Make 9, 3 sweaters, 1 top, 5 accessories. It seems a little bit more reasonable, perhaps. So When I have any major progress to tell you about, I will do so in another fun challenge accepted segment. Hopefully there will be more of those. That's what I got for now. So if you recall episode 32, you know that I should have a pattern drop for you, another pattern drop for you in this episode, and I don't. And so perhaps you are wondering why. And that is because I had to rip out all of the color work on this sweater and start over. So the main body of the sweater is knit on a US 4 in stockinette. And of course I swatched for the color work and went up to a US 5, and that worked. But my swatch, you know, is considerably smaller than the actual sweater. And I should have been diligently checking my color work to make sure that I was maintaining gauge, and I wasn't. Probably because, you know, I was getting frustrated working with, you know, the 3 colors. I really like the pattern, but it just doesn't move very swiftly. I wanted to get the pattern published, so I was trying to knit faster. And I think that tightened up my gauge. So I washed and blocked the sweater, and the idea is for the body of the sweater to have an A-line shape. So that is, it should go outward. And instead it kind of went, so it fit, but it didn't have the shape I wanted. And I probably could have fudged it and changed the way I was, you know, kind of describing the pattern, and, you know, but it didn't meet my vision, you know, like it's got these adorable swingy sleeves. I really wanted the body to have more of that swingy shape. Oops. And it just didn't. And I wasn't happy with it. I knew I wouldn't be happy with it if I published it that way. That said, I really do not want to reknit all of this color work. I am not a fast color work knitter anyway. I've already done it once. I hate knitting things more than once. So rather than try to whoosh through the color work again and get this published, I'm just gonna take my time. I am gonna try to get a couple of rounds in every day. It is a 43 round chart. So I'm gonna try to do a handful of rounds every day, and it will be done when it's done. I am gonna make myself keep working on it because I do want to get it wrapped up. I do want to sort of close that chapter, the producing new indie designs chapter, and be focused on other things, on my translation business, on my YouTube channel, on upgrading sizes for some older patterns, re-releasing some previous third-party patterns. I want to be focusing on them, all of that stuff, but I can't make myself zoom through that color work again. So that sweater is coming, but I think a pullover is coming, but I don't know when. It's not going to be in January. It's hopefully going to be in early February. Even if I only do 2 rounds a day, that's still only 20 days. I'm hoping at least to do a little more than that, especially on the weekends. But like I said, with 3 colors used on most of the rounds, it takes a fair bit of time just to do 1 round. And I really think that kind of trying to rush and move quicker messed me up last time, and I don't want to do that again. So I don't have that pattern drop for you. It is coming, but it's gonna be a while. Sorry. All right, on and off the needles. I certainly don't have anything off the needles yet. You know, it's only been a couple weeks since my last episode of the podcast, and I was busy working on that stupid sweater. But I do have a couple of things on the needles to show you. Well, sort of. All right, so first is, I'm not going to go into too much detail. Sorry, I thought one of my kids was up here. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but I have put this old baby blanket back on the needles as part of my Finish Fix frog. So all I've done so far is this gray square and this white. That's it so far. This is easy garter stitch. So I will be showing a lot more details about my Finish Fix frog projects in the vlogs that I am specifically doing for that year-long project that I have embarked on. But that is something that is back on the needles. And then I have almost started something. So as part of my Make 9, I have swatched from my Ursina pullover. So the yarn I'm using is City Tweed Aran. This is the pattern calls for either a sport or a worsted, and this is an Aran heavy worsted. So originally, her original pullover Ursa is a bulky weight. And as I mentioned earlier, I really don't like using bulky weight yarns, particularly for projects like sweaters. You have to use much larger needles. It doesn't feel right with my hands. So my original intention was just to buy her Ursa pattern and rework it for the Aran heavy worsted yarn. So I bought the Aran heavy worsted yarn because I figured it wouldn't be a huge, difference between the two. So I bought it, and then she came out with the Ursina pattern. So I bought that pattern instead, and this yarn is just a little heavier than what that calls for. So I swatched. The gauge called for in the pattern is 4 stitches to the inch on a US 7. I swatched on a US 8, and I still got, 17.5 stitches over 4 inches. So that's a little too big. So since I'm getting 17.5 stitches over 4 inches, and I'm supposed to be getting 16, I need to go up another needle size, and that's going to take me up to US 9. But I think it's still going to be okay. This fabric at 17.5 stitches is not too drapey. It's still pretty tight. I don't want too much structure because this is a really heavy sweater, so I want it to move. So even though, it's a heavier yarn and a much bigger needle size than what's used in the pattern, I think it's still going to work very nicely. If you have not checked out the City Tweed Aran, it's really soft. It's got some alpaca. You can see a little bit of halo there. It does get a little pilly, so you need to make sure you've got your gleaner ready or whatever you use for depilling. I used this yarn for my Mr. Postman cardigan pattern. And while it does need depilling somewhat frequently because of the alpaca, it holds up really nicely and it's really soft and warm. So I've swatched, I've done that part. I've got my US 9 needles. This is, again, almost the biggest size needles I own. I've got my yarn ready. I've printed out my pattern. And this is interesting. She has you fill in the numbers for your size so that you are not sorting through all the numbers like you traditionally are in a pattern. This is really clever. It's also, I think, a lot more work for her to set up. So good for her for doing it. It also makes your pattern quite a bit longer because you've got all of these, and especially because this one is written for two yarn weights. You've got all of these charts to print. She's also got 12 sizes in the pattern. So I think that's really clever and good for her for doing the extra work. If you have a large bust, she also includes, I didn't print it out because I don't need it, instructions for bust darts, which I talk about a bit in my sweater siren class, but a lot of people end up picking a much larger sweater size than they need to accommodate a large bust when the rest of their frame doesn't really need such a big size. If you have a large bust, you don't necessarily need a larger sweater size, you just need more space in the front of the chest to accommodate, and that's what bust darts are for. So I'm really looking forward to that. I am actually planning to cast that on tonight. It is Saturday. It is going to be hopefully some time for some relaxing knitting this evening. I'm going to do my few rounds of the color work this afternoon after I'm done recording, and then that will be selfish knitting time for me. So that's almost on the needles. I still haven't even wound the yarn for my sock challenge that I set for myself. Now I'm kind of waiting because I've got some yarn coming in the mail. It's supposed to arrive yesterday, but the postal service is still screwed up, so it's not here yet. And I'd rather just do a big push to wind yarn all at once. I applied to test knit a pattern for Jessie Mae Martinson, and I was accepted. So I'm really excited to get started on that. It is a tank top, and the pattern calls for a cotton linen blend. So I didn't necessarily want to use the exact yarn called for in the pattern, but I did want to use something that's a similar fiber blend. So I did have to order some new yarn. For that, it's from Shibui, and of course I will show it to you in whenever I record the next episode. I ordered it from Hill Country Weavers, which is down in Texas, and they shipped it very promptly, but it's not here yet because I don't know what's happening with the Postal Service. Hopefully that's something that somebody is going to be tackling in the new Biden administration, because things are really getting out of control over there. But for now, that is what I have to show you for on and off the needles. So I have one quick stash flash for you in this episode before I lose any more of the light. It is really getting tricky in the winter to find a good time to podcast. At least here in the podcasting location that I prefer. So I got my final club yarn from the Fiber for the People Values Club. So if you are a member and you haven't gotten yours yet, though certainly you should have, I expect, although the Postal Service, look away. All right, so this is the last skein. This was a 6-month club, so this is the last one. Love, love, love this. This is called Azure, and I have been getting all of the yarns from this club on the merino singles. So I have lots of beautiful yarn for some shawls. So you can see some really pretty blues, greens, a little bit of those black kind of speckles that she loves. This is really gorgeous. I have already managed to lose the inspiration photo that she sent with the yarn. I am sure if you head over to her Instagram, she probably will share a photo there and photos of her yarn as well. But this is really just beautiful. Definitely a good colorway. That sort of fits into my personal color library. This is my last skein from her club. I usually do 1 yarn club a year, and I have done Fiber for the People for the last 2 years. So I'm gonna try to branch out in 2021 and pick somebody else. I don't know who. I don't need any yarn, so it's not absolutely a necessity, but I really like to support some small businesses and get surprises in the mail, especially with the pandemic ongoing and so little to look forward to. It's nice to have, you know, small packages to look forward to. So one of the yarn companies I was kind of looking at is Coast to Coast Yarns. She had, oh, that reminds me, I did a pre-order from her. So that's something to look forward to. She does have a club that's going on. Inspired, I really like her yarns, but this one's inspired by like mushrooms, like the colors of mushrooms. So I think that might be a little earthier than what I want. So I'm not 100% sold on that, but I really do. I really like the colors that she's been doing for other things lately. So that's I want to say it's like a month to month, where each month you can look at the picture that she's using for inspiration and you can pre-order, or you can pre-order the whole thing. So I may keep an eye on that and maybe just do it on the month to month deal. We'll see. But I am open to a new yarn club, preferably from a US-based indie dyer. So if you have any recommendations, I hope you will leave a comment below and share. Or if you've had any good experiences in the past with yarn clubs, anything of that nature. Would definitely love to hear your suggestions, but that is all the new yarn that I have to share in this episode. All right, I do have an event I want to tell you guys about, and that is that my free Swatch Scholar Challenge is now open for signups. So this will be, I think, the 4th year that I've run the Swatch Scholar Challenge, and this is a free 5-day challenge to help you get a handle on swatching. Yes, you have to do it. No, you aren't going to love it. But if you want your stuff to fit, and I know you do, it's really important. So this is a free 5-day email challenge. You will get a new lesson every day in your email, beginning on February 1st for 5 days. And new this year, I'm going to be including a video component in every lesson. So every email is going to have a link to a video to help walk you through whatever it is we are doing in that particular lesson. So if you are mystified by swatching, or you just hate swatching, or you don't understand, you know, why your swatches aren't giving you the right information, whatever your issue with swatching is, I hope you will join us for this free challenge. I'm going to walk you through how to make a basic swatch, and on the way, I'm going to give you lots of tips and tricks to make sure that your swatch is doing what it's supposed to, which is giving you an idea of a clear idea of what your tension is while you're knitting, so that you can make sure whatever you're knitting is going to come out the right size. You can use this challenge to swatch for a particular project. If you want to do that, whatever project you are working on should be something that's knit flat, so a cardigan. Because when you are working on something that's knit in the round, you need to swatch in the round, and that is just a little more advanced, so we're not going to be covering that in the free Swatch Scholar Challenge. You can also, you know, just grab some yarn and needles and practice your swatching. Doesn't have to be for anything in particular. So link to that down below, and also in the show notes. You can find the information at mediaperuana.com/swatchscholar. We always have a good crew of swatchers. There is some chatter space. Unfortunately, at this time, the only place I can host kind of chatter is in my Ravelry group, and I know Ravelry is not accessible to everyone. Moving forward this year, I'm going to be looking for some other options for hosting Cal's chatter, things like that. But for now, that is where we are. You can also, you know, kind of participate on Instagram, use the hashtags. There's going to be prizes, all of that good stuff. So I hope you will check that out again at mediaperuana.com/swatchscholar. and join us to learn how to swatch. All right, thank you so much for joining me for episode 33 of the Hilo Stitch podcast. You can find links to everything that I've talked about in this episode at the show notes, which are at mediaperuana.com/Hilo and Stitch. Special thank you to my Patreon patrons who help keep this podcast and all of the content here on the YouTube channel up and running. If you are interested in supporting the podcast and getting some special perks and bonuses and behind the scenes content, you can find more information about that at patreon.com/mediaperuana. And a side note is I am currently updating my support tiers on Patreon because I am not an indie designer anymore. I'm really trying not to be. So those are going to be changing a little bit, and they should take effect the 1st of February. So definitely, if you maybe want to support the podcast, you can check that out there. If you are looking for me on social media, you can find me on Instagram as Media Peruana, and I will see you next time.